We all love to play the games where we can spend tons of hours without ever feeling bored. These are the games where you can easily get hooked. It's amazing to see how much addictive content has packed into these titles. That's why I have made a list of some of the best games that will make you forget about everything. There are also some bonus games at the end, so let's look at the first game on our list. SpiderMan 2. This one is such a blast from start to finish. The moment you swing out into the city, it's that same adrenaline rush from the first game, but somehow even better. The web swinging is so smooth and faster, and you can feel the momentum. I mean, you're literally zipping through New York, dodging traffic, diving off buildings, and using that new slingshot mechanic. What really sets it apart though is the dual Spidey action. Being able to switch between Peter and Miles is seamless, and Miles' Venom powers are next level fun. You feel like an absolute wrecking ball when you're taking on groups of enemies. Peter's also got those new tech-based moves, so he's dishing out some insane damage. It's like they both have their own unique flavor, which keeps the combat fresh no matter who you're playing as. Spider-Man has always been our fan favorite series because of how cool it is to play as a superhero. The new games are much better because they can be called as the perfect example of addictive fun. It never gets boring to just randomly swinging around the city, completing side missions, unlocking new stuff, and fighting the OG Spidey villains. Anyone can play this game at any given time, as there's no hardcore storyline or a tough boss to beat. You could say that Spider-Man teaches us what pure gaming looks like, along with the finest graphics and visuals. One thing I have to mention is the world itself. It feels alive. Random crimes, activities, little side missions. It's packed with stuff to do, but not in a way that feels overwhelming. You just get to do Spider-Man things. It's a big playground. HiFi Rush. Those of you guys who have no idea that this game exists are in for a huge surprise. HiFi Rush is such a different game where everything works on the beats. This means that the entire game is like a musical concert. It's a rhythm-based game where your goal is to sort of move forward and defeat some awesome bosses. You play as a guy who somehow got a music player fused to his heart, and suddenly the whole world is synced to the beat. The enemies attack to the rhythm, and you deal extra damage if you time your combos just right. It's got this whole Saturday morning cartoon vibe with animations that feel super slick, almost like you're watching a crazy anime mixed with a music video. What I really loved about it is how everything moves to the beat, like the environment bounces, NPCs are vibing, and even your steps have this rhythm to them. It feels so satisfying when you nail the timing during combat, because it's not just button mashing, it's like you're jamming out while you're fighting. Plus, the soundtracks is packed with tracks that keep you pumped throughout the playthrough. It's always a nice feeling to listen to something new in every boss battle. Each fight feels epic and creative, like you're part of this live concert. The only thing is, if you're not great at rhythm games, it might take some getting used to, but the game's pretty forgiving and lets you still enjoy it even if you're offbeat. Witcher 3. We all know about this game, and it's not wrong to say that Witcher is addictive. Well, at least to some players the game does appear to be addictive. There are some players who complains about the game for being slow paced, but it's nothing much. If you can get through the starting hours, then you'll realize how impressive Witcher 3 really is. There's a lot of content in it, and I mean a lot. If you want to see different kinds of environments, then the game got you covered with cities, dungeons, mountains, barren lands, castles, and much more. Want some variations in the combat? Then you have also got spells that can be combined with the sword attacks. Plus, don't even get me started on the side content and main storyline.
Is it 1358 yet?
No.
Witcher is known for having one of the most iconic stories with memorable characters, so there's no doubt that story lovers will have a great time in this game. In case you don't want to complete the main storyline, then you can still have an all-out blast finishing the side missions, as the game provides you with immense number of side quests. Sometimes even the side missions appear to be as memorable as the main ones. Witcher is something that you can feel addicted to only if you love the concept in open world. Also, there are DLCs as well. I really love the open world in Blood and Wine. Shadow Warrior 3. This game is a wild, over-the-top ride that just hits all the right notes if you're looking for fast-paced, mindless fun. It's like Doom Eternal, but with a more ridiculous tongue-in-cheek vibe. The main character is as sarcastic as ever, cracking jokes left and right, which might be hit or miss depending on your taste in humor. But honestly, it's the combat where this game really shines. The movement is super fluid. You've got this grappling hook that lets you swing around arenas, dashing and wall running like a ninja on steroids. The guns feel punchy and satisfying, especially when you start chaining together kills with the katana and all the crazy weaponry. You literally rip out monster parts and use them as weapons, which is just as insane as it sounds. One thing to note is that it's very linear, no open world exploration here, and the levels, while visually cool, are more about guiding you from one awesome combat section to the next. It's more about the non-stop action and the adrenaline rush. You can also play the previous installments, but in my opinion, the third part is the best one as it's highly appealing with updated visuals and smooth gameplay. Let me tell you something, try out the third part if you're in the mood for some fast-paced action where you just want to smash creatures, and if you really love the experience, then by all means get your hands on the second part. Sleeping Dogs. If you're tired of playing GTA and want something similar, maybe even better, then you're in the right place. Sleeping Dogs is one of my favorite underrated open world games. I was truly surprised to play this game. There's a lot of content, and two things I really love are the parkour and martial arts. It's got this cool mix of undercover cop drama and Hong Kong gangster action, and it nails the vibe of Hong Kong itself. The streets feel alive with the markets, neon signs, and constant hustle. The combat system is one of my favorite parts. It's heavily focused on martial arts, so expect some really satisfying hand-to-hand fights. You can string together combos, counterattacks, and use the environment to your advantage. Smashing a guy's head into an aquarium or tossing someone into a phone booth never gets old. It's not GTA levels of freedom, but it's slick and the car chases feel like action movie sequences. Plus, there's this whole parkour element, so running through the crowded alleys and rooftops is super fluid. I also really liked how they tied in some cool side missions and activities. You can race cars, do some street fighting, or just go around beating up thugs for extra cash. Sleeping Dogs feels like an underrated classic. It's got this hard-hitting atmosphere, but still knows how to be fun without feeling too over the top. If you love action, a good story, and an open world to explore, this one definitely delivers. Sunset Overdrive. This is where you're just thrown into the chaotic world of mutants. It's one of those games where you're not just playing to win, you're playing to have fun. The world is full of energy and madness with a wild punk rock vibe that never really lets up. I love how it feels like a big playground where you can bounce off cars, wall run, grind on rails, and use insane weapons like a gun that shoots vinyl records. It's like Tony Hawk meets Ratchet Clank with a sugar rush. What really sets Sunset Overdrive apart is how fast and fluid the movement is. You're never stuck on the ground for long, and you're constantly flying around while blasting enemies in creative ways. The combat flows really well with the traversal. You have to keep moving if you want to stay alive, especially when you're up against hordes of mutants or these high-tech company soldiers. The whole thing is just this perfect mix of chaos and style, and it never takes itself too seriously, which I love. The humor is super self-aware, breaking the fourth wall, making fun of gaming cliches, and just being wacky. The missions keep that lighthearted tone too, with objectives like blowing up giant fizzy cans or taking down mutant bosses that are basically straight out of an arcade game. Honestly, if you want a game that's all about fun, Sunset Overdrive is that perfect blend of action, humor, and pure chaos. It's not trying to be the next deep, emotional story, it's just about having a blast in a colorful punk rock apocalypse. Bully.
Thanks for making my day better.
If you've ever wanted to play something like GTA but set in a school, This is it. The whole school is filled with different cliques, jocks, nerds, greasers, and you've got to deal with all of them. What I loved about it is that you're not just mindlessly doing missions. You've got classes to attend, pranks to pull off, and you even have to juggle your reputation between all these different groups. It's funny too, like genuinely funny. The characters have this over-the-top vibe, and the dialogue is sharp. The combat is pretty simple, but it's satisfying enough, and you've got a slingshot, fireworks, even stink bombs. The world feels alive in that Rockstar kind of way. There's always something happening, and it's cool that the seasons change as the school year goes on. The schoolyard vibe with Rockstar's signature style makes Bully stand out. It's not the longest game, but it's packed with memorable moments. Just riding around on your bike or skateboard, causing mayhem, getting into trouble, it brings back those rebellious teenage memories, but without the actual consequences. If you've ever wanted to relive your school days but with way more mischief and mayhem, Bully is definitely worth picking up. If you guys ask me, then this one is something you could say the best underrated light-hearted Rockstar creation. I'll always be grateful that I got the chance to play something so addictive. Also, the controls are perfect. I don't know why, but some players believe that the game has messy controls. Honestly, everything is fine, and the game runs perfectly. Black Myth Wukong. This is one of those games that just blew me away from the start. The moment you jump in, the visuals hit you hard. It's like every frame could be a wallpaper. Every gamer knows about this game, and the popularity of it is crazy. The game broke all records. You know what? I was one of those players who was really excited for this game and was patiently waiting for it. I got it on the release day, and honestly, it didn't disappoint. I completed the entire game in 2 days. Loved every second of it. The boss battles were crazy. There's no time to rest. Almost in every 20 minutes, there's going to be a main or mini boss. Maybe for some players this could be a turn off, but for players like us who knew that it's more of a boss rush game, nothing could feel better than this. Thank you so much to the developers for making such an impressive game. Now, about the storyline, this is also my favorite aspect. I'm a huge fan of Journey to the West. Therefore, I love the idea of playing as the Monkey King. It's almost a dream come true. Black Myth can be an amazing experience if you are there for the combat, the boss battles, impressive visuals, and the Chinese mythology. I really want you guys to try out this game if you're into this genre. Devil May Cry 5. This is pure, stylish action at its finest. I remember diving into it, and right off the bat, it felt like a high-octane ride. The game's got this insane blend of fast-paced combat, flashy moves, and just the right amount of attitude from the characters. You switch between Nero, Dante, and this mysterious new guy, V, each with their own fighting style that keeps the gameplay fresh. Nero's all about his mechanical arm, Dante's got his signature weapons, and that endless swagger, and V is something different, summoning creatures to do the dirty work while you try to keep them out of danger. But what really sticks with you is how fluid the combat feels. You're stringing together combos, dodging, juggling enemies, and pulling off these ridiculous moves that make you feel like an absolute beast. And the game rewards you for playing with style. There's this ranking system that gives you that extra boost to get creative with how you take down enemies. Hitting that SSS rank never gets old. Honestly, if you're into fast-paced action and love a game that lets you experiment with different fighting styles while looking incredibly cool doing it, DMC5 is an absolute blast. Also, it's the finale, so you must check out this one if you have played at least one DMC game. We were all waiting for the conclusion between the brothers, and we finally got to see the fight between Virgil and Dante. Elden Ring. This game is an absolute masterpiece and easily one of the best games I've ever played. Imagine the depth and difficulty of Dark Souls, but on a much larger scale. From Software really nailed the open world design here. It feels huge, but it never gets boring or repetitive. There's always something around the corner, whether it's a hidden boss, a mysterious cave, or some lore to piece together. The world of Elden Ring is just breathtaking. It's like an open world Dark Souls, but even more epic in scale and freedom. If you ask me about the combat, then It's brutal but rewarding at the same time. Every fight can be a challenge if you're not paying attention, but that's what makes victory feel so satisfying. Plus, you've got a lot of freedom in how you approach it. Magic, heavy weapons, fast dodging. I went with a mix of sword and sorcery, and man, summoning spirits in the middle of a tough boss fight. Trust me, it's such a game changer if you can have the right weapon or the right build. And don't even get me started on the bosses. They're insane, each one feels like an event. Some of them will crush your spirit, but that moment you finally beat them is pure euphoria. Elden Ring is everything you want in an action RPG, beautiful, punishing, mysterious, and endlessly rewarding. It's a game that'll stick with you long after you put the controller down. Honestly, everyone should play at least one From Software game. I'm sure you guys will realize what true hard gaming looks like. There are such hardcore boss battles, fall damage, environment kills, traps, and so much more. Truly one of the finest genres. Metal Gear Rising. Metal Gear is an adrenaline rush from start to finish. It's like they took all the insane, over-the-top moments from the Metal Gear series and cranked them up to 11. You play as Raiden, who's this cybernetic ninja slicing through enemies like butter, and the combat is just chef's kiss. The first thing that hit me was how fast-paced the game is. You don't have time to catch your breath, and that's what makes it so damn fun. Every fight feels like a dance with death. The parry system is key. Once you get the hang of it, you feel like a total badass deflecting attacks and countering with those epic slow-mo blade slashes. If we talk about the storyline, then it's typical Kojima madness, mixing politics, memes, AI, and philosophy all wrapped up in a package that's way too fun to take seriously. I mean, at one point you're fighting a literal senator who's built like a tank, spewing stuff about free will and justice while he beats you to a pulp. It's absurd, but in the best way possible. And don't even get me started on the music. So the soundtrack pumps you up for every boss fight. Each song ramps up in intensity as you get closer to finishing off an enemy, and by the end you're just ready to slice them in half in a cinematic finishing move. The bosses themselves are all memorable, each one crazier than the last. As always, it's more of a combat game where you feel the addictiveness by slashing through waves of enemies. Dead Island 2. Before you enter this game, ask yourself a question: do you love to smash zombies in creative ways? If yes, then by all means get your hands on Dead Island 2. Here, you're dropped into this beautifully messed up version of LA, which is now overrun by the undead, and your main goal is to survive and absolutely wreck zombies in the most creative, over-the-top ways possible. The gameplay isn't trying to be super deep, but that's kind of what makes it so enjoyable. It's all about kicking back and getting lost in the insanity. You can use everything from makeshift weapons like a bat with nails sticking out of it to full-blown fire axes. Every swing, every slice, you literally see the damage you're dealing in real time, and it's oddly satisfying. Plus, you get to mod weapons, which adds a whole layer of customizations. There's also a co-op mode that really amps up the fun if you've got friends to play with. Running around as a squad and taking on hordes of zombies while laughing at the chaos is definitely a highlight. And while the story isn't something that'll stick with you forever, it's enough to keep you moving forward with some quirky characters and a decent plot to justify the mayhem. The game does a great job of making you feel like you're in the messed up version of LA with its luxury mansions, beaches, and abandoned film sets. Overall, it's not a game that's going to blow your mind with its depth or narrative, but if you're after pure zombie slaying chaos with some gorgeous environments and a ridiculous amount of gore, Dead Island 2 delivers exactly that. Before I reveal my final pick, here are some honorable mentions. Red Dead Redemption 2.
This is it, gentlemen. The last one. Where have we heard that before? What has happened?
Ghost of Tsushima.
Clear the way ahead.
Battlefield 4. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Last of Us 2. I know that some of you guys aren't gonna agree with me putting Last of Us in this list. At first look, the game doesn't appear to be extremely addictive, but believe me, the world, the relations, and the story will never let you put down the controller. In my opinion, the first is definitely a great game, but if you have played that one, then there's no reason to skip this one. I'm sure that you guys do want to see what happens to Ellie and Joel. What's the conclusion of the story? Also, just to give you guys something to look forward to, then there's a lot more content this time. The developers introduced some of the new characters, and the overall length is higher.
You remember me?
Plus, the world around you feel a bit stretched out as the stakes are a bit high because this time you're not just alone saving Ellie. The new characters bring a fresh touch to the game and compel you to see all the outcomes. The addition of Abby is somehow a good option because you get to experience the story of someone else besides Ellie and Joel. Finally, I want to end things by saying that the game also provides impressive visuals and a smooth gameplay. The colors around you feels more appealing and the textures are highly improved. Therefore, if you guys want to experience some deep zombie level stuff, then Last of Us 2 is the best choice. Alright, this finishes our list of some of the best addictive games that you must play to get your mind off from life's worries. I'm sure that you guys are gonna love these titles as there's something for everyone. We have got our favorite SpiderMan zipping around New York, and then we also have Ellie and Joel struggling to survive in a zombie apocalypse. Anyways, if you have made it this far, then please subscribe as I'm close to reaching 24,000 subscribers and join my Discord for giveaways.